In this Northern Brewer video, Shoot Malting, the world's most awarded craft malt company. A family farm in Loveland, Colorado, it grows and malts its own barley and grains, putting a unique touch on each one. We talk with 5th generation farmer Todd Olander and head maltster Mike Myers to learn about Shoot's unique base and specialty malts and get pro tips on using them in your homebrew. If you want to see more conversations with brewing industry experts, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Northern Brewers YouTube channel, and share it with someone you know will appreciate it. All right, everybody, I'm here with the rock stars of Shoot Malting, Todd Olander, Mike Myers. Mike Myers is the maltster, and then they're both founder farmers. Todd, your family kind of has deep roots, no pun intended, with Shoot, right?
That's correct.
We're very excited to have your malts here at Northern Brewer. They've been extremely well received since we brought them in about a year ago. So I'm amped to have a little chat about your kind of story, the noble mission that you have for the land and the grains you grow. And before we get into more specific varieties, tell me just a little bit about it, because it's a farm, family farm, and a malt house. So tell me about operations between those two properties that you have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, farming history goes back to, at least on the property that we currently sit, like 1926. So we're real close to a 100-year century farm. It's pretty exciting. I'm the 5th generation to be on the land here, and we farm about 2,000 acres. I guess we grow some alfalfa for crop rotation, but the majority of what we're growing is barley, wheat, rye, and then corn. And most of the corn that we're growing right now is headed to bourbon. So the majority of what we're growing on the farm is going into the beverage industry. We're working on all kinds of different ways of growing things. We're focusing in on like regenerative type farming, which is really important to us as far as the environment goes, and saving water, and just really setting ourselves up for continually farming in this area far into the future.
What are some of the vital stats, Mike, of the malt house itself?
We operate on 3 10-ton Casper Schultz malting equipment, malting drums. We are able to produce 30 tons of malted barley per week from this operation, and we're producing anywhere from, it's about 14 different varieties of malted barley, oats, rye, and wheat.
In 2016 is when we got started with the malting operation. We grew for Coors for quite a few years on the barley side, so we were very comfortable growing barley and knowing that we could grow a high quality product. And that's kind of where the aha moment came from, when there's a lot of different either home brewers. I mean, Mike's an avid home brewer, and then just the craft malt industry, or not craft malt, craft brewing industry in Colorado is prolific. So that's kind of where that aha moment came from, where it's like, how can we just go directly from the farm right to the brewers? And that's where the idea came from. And we started with 1 10-ton malting drum, and then we've expanded pretty much every 2 years. We added capacity.
What are you able to wrap your minds around on the planting and the farming side that maybe other maltsters don't really have that flexibility or that nimbleness?
I think what puts us as standalone is that we're completely vertically integrated. So we're selecting the seed, we're tending to the soil, tending to the crops. We're deciding when to harvest those materials. We store all those materials on site at the malt house. We're responsible for the cleaning of those materials, and then the malting, and then delivering. So we are sowing, we are growing, and we are delivering on all these products that we're making.
Tell me about a few of the bigger base malts that we move. Genie Pale, English Pale, Pilsner. Maybe just kind of tell me what makes those unique coming out of your malt house.
Let's talk about Genie Pale first. That's our highest velocity item moving from the malt house, and accounts for about not quite 50% of our production. Originally, that base malt came around. We were working with Station 26 Brewery, which is down in Denver, and they were one of our first accounts. So we were making malt, delivering it to Station 26, and then they would brew with it and then provide feedback with it. with that. And so then we would change some of our processes. Like if they said, you know, we're looking for a little more toast character or a little more color. And so we would bring that to the malt house, change some of the parameters, and then remake it and deliver it again. And we did that for a little while until they finally decided, hey, this is what we want. This is what we're after. And it turns out that that partnership has helped build that malt profile, and that has become our number one selling product.
It's also won the Malt Cup a couple of times. So
3 times.
3 times. Yeah. So it's a good one.
English Pale is like our answer for Maris Otter. Although our English Pale is a little more character than Maris Otter does, and a little more color than traditional thought. But we want to make sure that we're providing malts that are in these certain storied avenues, such as Maris Otter. You know, if you want to make English beer, like we want to provide something that's close, but we want to put our own touch on it. We really like the character that comes out at just a little higher color for that English Pale, and that translates really well into the finished products.
And then the Pils. What up with that Pilsner malt?
That Pils is so good. It's just really lightly kilned, compared to the Genie. There's only generally like 1 Levibond difference or 1 SRM difference in between the Pilsner and the Pale, but that 1 degree is a lot of flavor in there. So the Pilsner has a little less like honey characteristic, a little less toast, and a little more of the like straw and hay characteristic that you look for in a traditional Pilsner.
And then you guys have a few things that I don't think I've ever really heard of any other maltster supplier providing. We're talking, I was looking at the light Munich 4, the Munich Wheat, and the Oland's Wheat. Is that how you say it? Oland's Vet?
Oland's Vet, yes.
Oland's Vet wheat malt. Tell me a little about each of those. The Munich 4 is really cool, right? I mean, that's a very unique.
Munich 4 is the most underrated thing that we make here at the Malt House. It is one of my favorite things. It's like Genie Pale, but it's just turned up to notch 11. So it just has a little extra character to it with just a touch more color. And so what you do is get this really light base malt that's filled with all this flavor and character that's just turned up a little bit more.
And you find people will use that as a base malt, or at least a larger percentage than you might think when you hear Munich.
Yep. So, I mean, it's got, I like to use it in some lagers, and I like to push people that are making IPAs because there's just more to it. Like it's not.
Yeah, I think you could think of like Golden Promise. You know, it has some of those characteristics to it. Maybe a little bit darker than Golden Promise, but yeah, it's just a little more layered flavor, a little more unique. So it is great. It does fly under the radar too. So,
And then the Munich Wheat, is the Munich part of that a reference to, again, kind of just a little boost in kilning and color?
Yeah. So we don't have the capacity a lot of times to do some exploring on what our kilns can do, but this last year we had some opportunity to sneak a couple batches in for some trials, and we wanted to take our wheat and just amplify it. So what we did is we took our Munich 10 kiln profile and just applied that to our regular malted white wheat germination cycle. So what came out was this really bready, toasty, really complex wheat that had just a little bit of color on it. Like it comes in at 6 SRM. So normal wheat is generally like 2 to 3, but inside of that, that SRM number is just chock full of all these amazing complex flavors, which we're super excited about the opportunity to like push the boundaries a little bit on what our equipment can do here.
What's a usage suggestion for that then? That Munich wheat.
I see we just had some Dunkelweiss made with it, which is a really nice addition. I see it in a lot of like IPAs and low additions because you're getting a little bit of color and you get, just all the extra protein from the wheat for some head retention and some foam positive ingredients adding to beer. And then in the dark beers, it's really stands out and helps it push it to another level. So a lot of what we're doing is amplifying the flavor here. Like we want to make sure that everything is flavorful and fresh. So when it gets to the breweries or the homebrewers or anybody using our products, those sensory attributes of the freshness and the toastiness, those are like right in your face, and it just makes everything better. It translates downstream to the drinker because they're like, man, well, I don't know what's going on in this, but it is freaking delicious.
Is the Oland's Vet wheat malt what you start with to make that, or are these two separate strains of wheat? Okay. What's the wheat malt all about?
I'll let Todd
talk. The Oland's Vet is like a heritage grain. So it originated in like Sweden and Denmark area, and they still grow quite a bit of it in that region for like sourdough baking. Anyways, we had a guy from Denmark that is operating a distillery and a farm. He came through probably 2016 and asked us if we knew about this wheat, because my last name's Olander. He's like, there's this Oland wheat in Denmark. You should check it out. And so we did some digging, and I finally found it at the bread lab in Washington, just like a very small amount. And so we came in, planted about, I think 5 acres. No, I think it was only 2 acres to start with. And then we've kind of increased the acreage over the last few years. So I think we're up to right around like 20 acres we usually plant each year, just to kind of make sure we have a steady supply of that. But it's got real bready character, like earthy, kind of brandy flavor. So it's very unique. It doesn't taste like your more modern wheats. So I think that's why they use it in sourdough baking, is just because it's so flavorful. It's like punches you in the face, but it's pretty high protein also. So you get a lot of those good attributes with like head retention and that mouthfeel.
A little rustic kind of vibe, what people would put a rustic stamp on that.
Yep. I see it going to a lot of saisons. So
what's the future look like for Root Shoot? What, anything big? Kind of for disclosure, it's like mid-February as we record this. So I assume you're kind of, well, you've got some winter barley, right? So you kind of got operations year round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the winter barley is actually planted in like in the fall. So like September, October. We actually had like a quick break in the weather. It's just dry enough. So last week I actually was able to plant that Oland wheat, because it's supposed to be a winter wheat, but it doesn't have a lot of winter hardiness. So I snuck that into the ground real quick. And then we should have good success. So that needs to vernalize. So that's kind of the main part about like a winter variety and a spring variety. So it has to vernalize, which just means it has to freeze. Otherwise it's not going to produce any seed. Yeah, so we've got that, and then we're messing around with Lightning and Thunder, which are both Oregon State winter barley varieties. And then we also planted Buck, which is a wholeless winter barley. We've got some distillers that are looking to they ferment on grain, and so they want to make a single malt whiskey with that wholeless barley, because they're going to ferment on the grain. They don't have that husk and astringency kind of coming through in their product. At least that's the theory. So we'll see what happens with that. Yeah, and we've got rye as well. I don't know if you guys are carrying our rye malt. So we're malting Guardian rye, which is a variety that actually came out of like Michigan, I think. So kind of excited about that. It's got the spiciness that you would usually characterize it as a wheat malt, or not a rye malt. I think that's about it. But it's trying to experiment a little bit all the time, just trying to make sure that we're staying in the forefront and always trying to explore like what we can do as a farm and a malt house.
Well, again, we're excited. We've got Shoot Malting at northernbrewer.com. A little behind the curtains, Hayward, former Northern Brewer employee, is now kind of on your team, and we've been bouncing some ideas for some recipes that may or may not become beer kits, but they're definitely going to be test brewed in the brew cave and enjoyed here. So we won't go too into that. We'll save that for the future. I'm looking really forward to finally getting into the brew cave with some of these malts as well. Todd and Mike, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about Root Shoot. Homebrewers, get your Root Shoot on at northernbrewer.com. Let us know how they work out in your home brewery.
do it.
Thank you.